Right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar commemorating the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. We have still a few people joining us, but we have quite a packed agenda for today, so we'll go straight ahead. Today we will hear about exciting work by the Climate and Clean Air Coalition and its partners at the World Health Organization, World Meteorological Organization, the UN Environment Programme, and the UN Economic Commission for Europe. All those partners coming together to provide the clean air community with new tools to fight air pollution in 2025 and beyond. But first, we'll hear a few words from Executive Director of UNEP, Inger Anderson, that will highlight this year's theme of Racing for Clean Air.
Every day, billions of people are on the move to school, to work, and to care for others. But for many, every step is harder than it really should be, not because of the journey itself, but because of the air that they breathe. Air pollution is one of the world's deadliest environmental threats, claiming over 8 million premature lives each year. And countless days are lost for school and work accordingly, and impacting people's quality of life. But this race against air pollution can be won. We have the solutions: cleaner energy and cooking solutions, sustainable transport, better agricultural and waste practices, stronger regulatory frameworks, and proven solutions to cut superpollutants. Clean air is not a privilege, it's a right. On this International Clean Air Day for Blue Skies, now is the time to pick up the pace and win this race.
And now we will hear from Martina Otto, head of the CCAC Secretariat, who's joining us from Medellin, Colombia, where the CCAC partnered with local authorities for the city's marathon that was held just yesterday. Yeah, we'll hear from Martina.
Hi there. Welcome to this webinar. I'm sorry that I can't be with you live, but we've been in Medellin, and that's the background that you see to celebrate the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. And well, we've been teaming up actually with the Medellin Marathon as a public-facing event to raise more awareness on why action is needed, but also to showcase good examples of what can be done. And obviously, we all know Medellin is a fantastic example of how the city has put to work all the political will and collaboration across a variety of partners to do the job. And well, we all know the figures as well, some 40% reduction of black carbon. Anyway, I want to really thank you all. You're an amazing team of partners, and we have come together to be able to launch a new version of AQMX with a more deepened guidance on our areas, so level 2 and level 3, right in time for Clean Air Day. And I know that all of you have been working on different products as well that will be launched in this webinar. And I think it's amazing to see how we all come together in this, because we need all hands on deck. We all come to it with our different puzzle pieces to help drive the action forward. I think that's what we need. So thanks again for this, and I'm very curious and to see the products that we have, how we can take that forward, and again, using the Clean Air Day as a rallying point for all of us, and to mobilize more action. And this outward-facing event, again, that we are at, will help doing that as well. So I think we'll see a bit more connections to the topic as we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Martina, joining us from Medellin in Colombia. And now we'll hear from our first speaker, who is online with us for this session that is focused on voices of parents for clean air. So it's my pleasure to welcome Maya Myler, who is a social justice campaigner, charity leader, and movement builder. She is co-directing Our Kids Climate, which is a global parent network pushing for clean air and climate justice. And she also co-founded Mothers Rise Up, a creative campaign group. So Maya, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Juliette, and hi everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you all and see so many people from around the world on this webinar. So I'm Maya. I'm dialing in from London, and I co-direct Our Kids Climate. So I'm here representing parents and carers from many different countries. Our Kids Climate supports parent groups in about 50 countries around the world to push for clean air and for climate justice. And we really see ourselves as a global family of change makers working in collaboration with many of you here today. We can move on to the next slide. And we have loved the theme for Clean Air Day, Racing for Clean Air. And we've embraced it across our network. And this is just a snapshot of activities that took place yesterday in Warsaw, in India, and also in London in my local park. That's my daughter in the white t-shirt that says Race for Clean Air. We think it's a really visual and effective way to get across the urgency of the issue. And as the last speaker said, the need for all hands on deck. You know, as parents, as mothers, we feel this very deeply because we know that children are particularly vulnerable to toxic air because of their physiology, because of the nature of their exposure. They stand closer to the ground where air pollution peaks. We found air pollution particles in the placenta. And as you all know, air pollution affects every organ in the body, and it has a lifelong impact on our children's health. We can move, thank you, to the next slide. And for us, this is really a question of, you know, intergenerational justice and fairness. You know, it's not fair that children who have done nothing to cause air pollution and indeed the climate crisis are bearing the brunt of it. And we know that we need the data and we need these excellent tools that your community has provided. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that. And we also need to tell, alongside the data, human stories of how children are being affected and of how parents and carers and others are forging those solutions. And across our global network, we found that one very effective way to communicate about air pollution and indeed about the interrelated climate crisis is leaning into this narrative of protecting what we love, protecting our children and protecting our neighborhoods. And there's a huge body of social science evidence that shows that this frame is one that can cut across different ideological and political divides. And I'm happy to share more information on that in the chat. So as a parent community, we are really leaning into this love-led way of communicating about the need for clean air for the sake of children and future generations. And that's just a snapshot of some of the artwork that we've taken to different conferences and that we use to engage with communities and parents all over the world. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to share with you some of the mobilizations that we've done in many different countries to raise an awareness about clean air. This was actually earlier in the year ahead of the landmark WHO conference in Cartagena, where we organized different mobilizations in 20 towns and cities in about 13 countries. And one of the reasons we do this is because although the data and the evidence is irrefutable, as we all know, when we talk to parents at the school gates, at the community centre, in our workplaces, we find that there's still a lack of awareness about the impact of air pollution. Or it's just lower down the agenda because parents, families are dealing with other issues. So that's why we find creative ways to communicate about the air pollution crisis at the community level and then take that up to the national level. And it's also very important for us to make that clear connection between air pollution and one of the principal drivers, which is, as we know, the burning of oil, coal and gas, the burning of fossil fuels, which is impacting all of our health, our children's health today, but is also, stealing their futures as a result of the accelerating climate crisis. Next slide, please, which I think is the final one. That was our delegation to the Mothers Conference. We just wanted to share with you our presence there. And the reason for this is we found that telling that human story has really helped forward this agenda. And, we owe a great debt of gratitude to Rosamund Kissy-Debrah, who most of you know, who has pioneered work on air pollution through the tragic story of the loss of her daughter, Ella. And she has inspired many parents, mothers, caregivers in our network to share their own stories of how their children have been affected by air pollution and have encouraged them to join this growing movement of mums, dads, aunties, uncles, who are all campaigning and pushing for clean air. And we also owe a great debt of gratitude for all of you, because it's thanks to the data and the clean air monitoring tools that this community have developed that we are able to communicate on this issue with real authority. And some of our community, you can see Anna there from Ecuador holding the giant prescription, has, for example, pioneered the first citizen-led clean air monitoring program in Ecuador. So we see this coming together of parent grassroots voices with the UN community and with scientists and healthcare professionals as a very powerful way to communicate and push for the solutions that we know are out there. So I think that's it from me, and I want to say thank you again. It's been a privilege to be here, and I'm going to finish, hopefully the technology will be with us, by sharing a film that we showed at the conference in Cartagena, which I think really captures the impact of air pollution on babies and children, and why we need to keep doing everything we can to push for clean air and for those solutions. Thanks again.
Every breath tells a new story.
Mom, we've got a baby girl. Lo hizo, dio sus primeros pasos. Good job, Rita. That sounds little.
We dream of a world where our children grow strong and breathe easily. Yet each day, a new chapter unfolds. Pollution fills small lungs with every gasp and wheeze. Trips to the playground, now hospital visits. Playdates replaced with doctor appointments. Inhalers always within reach. Clean air is every child's human right, but pollution is stealing it away. A parent's worry is no longer silent. What was once a whisper of comfort has become a roar in the streets. Demanding the air their child deserves. This isn't just a fight for clean air. It's a fight for the breath of life itself.
Thank you so much, Maya, for sharing all the work you and your organization are doing to protect children's health from the impact of air pollution. And many participants here know how dire those impacts are. So thank you for your work. Thank you also for sharing this great video campaign. We'll make sure to share the link in the chat so participants can share it among their network. Thank you again, Maya. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Beatrice Cardenas is the Air Quality Global Director at the World Resource Institute. She is also the chair of the EQMX Technical Advisory Group and will tell us more about the new guidance that we are launching today on the EQMX platform. So Beatrice, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's for me a pleasure to be the one who is introducing on behalf of everyone who has participated on this work. It's the new curated guidelines. I would like to say that just remember, for those of you who haven't been in contact or know about the Air Quality Management Exchange platform. It's a component of the CCAC Cleaner flagship, and it's designed to be a one-stop shop for technical tools, models, data, and knowledge. And this is to build capacity among air quality managers, specialists, or people who are interested in clean air worldwide. This is, it aims to serve as a trusted resource and providing guidance and resources to support governments, implementers, and stakeholders. So today, I would like to just very quickly go over to the platform. If you go to the website, you will find that it contains, in addition to what I just explained, what is the AQMX. It has a resource exchange library that you can visit. You will find a lot of resources. But what I would like to focus today is just to present the stage 2 and 3 of the curated guidance. So if you go to the platform, you will see the curated guidance. And the curated guidance, it's a comprehensive spanning of all aspects of air quality management, from air quality monitoring to legal framework, policy design, and implementation. It's a multilingual guidelines, making this information accessible to everyone. This differentiated by stages of engagement. That means that you don't have to be in a very advanced stage for air quality management to find resources. You have to find yourself where you are, where your city, where your country, where your organization is, and then you will find what information represents you. Last year, the stage 1 guidance was launched. Today, we're very happy to launch this stage 2 and 3 that you will be able to find in the website. As I mentioned, today we are launching the stage 2 and 3. I will like just to recognize who is behind this effort. It's a lot of work led by Amanda, Juliet, and Gary Clayman. And they form a group of specialists that we help to review and support the curated guidelines. And those are the members. I have the pleasure of being the chair, but all the participants here have been very supportive, designing, reviewing, and adding a lot of materials to this. This is, if you go again to the AQMX platform, go to the curated guidance, and then you will find each of the different sections of the curated guidance, going from air quality monitor, emissions inventory, sustainable development, benefit assessment, public engagement and communication, source attribution, health impact assessment, decision support, and legal framework and policy design. Once you click on each of them, or one of them, let's say that you go to the air quality monitoring, then you will be able to click and find stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Now the 2 and 3 are just new, being launched today. And then you will be able to see in each of them, this is just an example for you to see, you will be able to identify which of these guidance will represent you more. And then you will click on those, and then you will start finding just the description in terms of the capacity, what objectives you are, what activities, what data management, and the sustainability plan. In each of those, you will be also able to find the resources that are suggested. Let's say that you go and click on the Health Impact Assessment Curated Guideline for stage 2, again, launched today, and you will be able to see what are for the objective, which is a stage 1, you will be able to see what, stage 3, sorry, you will be able to select what health impact assessment tools are there. You will be able to click on them and find these resources, and even have like a table of information. What is this resource and what will take you, and what information will provide you. So I will say that this is a very happy day. It has been a lot of work. As I mentioned, today we are having all the step 2 and step 3 curated guidance in English, but very soon in the coming weeks, there will be in other languages, UN languages. Please be tuned, expect the launch of sectoral guidance as well, the sectorial guidance for agriculture, for household energy, as well as transport and waste management by the end of 2025. And please participate and collaborate to prepare the steps 4 and step 5 of the guidance that will be launched in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beatrice, for giving us this overview of the new created guidance. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank you again as the chair of the TAG, thank all the members of the Technical Advisory Group for their contributions. As Beatrice was saying, we are launching a new guidance today, but we also have plans further down the year. So stay tuned and keep a look on CCAC social media to be informed. So now we'll hear from our partners and the new air quality management tools and knowledge products that they are launching for Cleaner Day. And first, I'd like to introduce Caroline Sanz Noriega, who is Environmental Affairs Officer at UNECE, and who will tell us about a new e-learning course on monitoring the effects of air pollution under the Convention on Long-Range Transboundary Air Pollution. So Caroline, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Can you see my screen? Can you just confirm?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So thank you so much for giving me the floor. I'm very happy to be here and happy Clean Air Day, even though it was yesterday, but still we're celebrating it also today through this webinar. So as many of you know, the UNECE Secretariat to the Air Convention has over the last couple of years developed and promoted e-learning courses. And thanks to the financial support by Germany, we're very excited to launch our new e-learning course on monitoring air pollution effects under the UNECE Air Convention today. Just move forward, yeah. So why did we develop these online courses in the first place? The idea to digitize information about the convention and its protocols came in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We wanted to create a tool that can easily be accessed and explain the functioning of the convention, make the knowledge that has been gathered under the convention accessible to those who already deal with the convention, but also to those who are maybe new to the convention framework and who want to learn from the convention and its wealth of knowledge. So first, we developed an introductory course on the convention and its protocols, and then a course on emission inventory development. And today, as mentioned, we're launching our new course on monitoring air pollution effects under the convention. The development of these courses would not have been possible without the financial contributions of various donors, as you can see here also on the slide. And for the course on monitoring air pollution effects, we would like to particularly thank Germany for supporting this project. And I would also personally like to thank UNITAR for hosting the courses on their platform, and also many individuals from the working group on effects and many others who have contributed. So another big thanks to everyone who contributed with expertise and time. This is just to show you with a little bit more detail the courses that we have already launched in the last couple of years. So this is the course on the convention. The links are here accessible. So if the presentation can be shared afterwards, you can also access these courses through the link. This is the course on the emission inventories. And now I would like to go on to the course on monitoring air pollution effects. This is to show you how you can find the e-learning courses also through the AQMX platform. So you type in, you go to the AQMX resource exchange library, and then you type in the search bar convention on long-range transboundary air pollution, for example, and then get an overview on convention resources available on AQMX. You then click on the course and then on download, and then again on the English button that you can see here on the slides, which redirects you then to the UNCC eLearn platform where the course is hosted. And I show you that here. Whoops. You then have to register on the UNCC eLearn platform, and then this registration is for free, and then you can enroll to any course on the platform also for free. So let me now give you a quick overview of how you can how this course looks like. I'll just demonstrate and go quickly through a couple of slides here. So this is the welcome page. Then the course has 4 modules. It features a narration tab where you can view the voiceover, narration, text, and acronyms, and a resources tab, which includes a glossary and further links. Here you can see the modules and the target audience. It provides also the learning objectives, highlights what you will learn throughout this course. When we go further into the course, we have the first module here, and this describes the major effects of air pollution, as you can see. So you have everything from health to food, to cultural heritage, climate change, and economy. Here you have effects on terrestrial ecosystems, for example, the different ones that you can see here on the slide. Then there are also quiz questions on the different slides, which make the course more interactive. The learner has to click on different tabs on the slide to listen and read information. And then here you can see like how the narration tab looks like. Just as an example, you have effects on cultural heritage, and after each module there are 3 quiz questions to check learning progress. Then we go further to module 2. This is module 2, which deals with the effect-related work under the convention, describes the convention, what it is, and why the effects-related work played such an important role in the setup of the convention. It explains what the working group on effects is and how it's structured. And then if we go to module 3, the course then goes into the details of the methodologies to monitor effects. So here you can also see the acronyms tab, how it looks like. The module first explains how monitoring is organized under the convention, that is the background monitoring under the Cooperative Program for Monitoring and Evaluation of the Long-Range Transmission of Air Pollutants in Europe, or as we just for short say, EMAP. And then it explains the receptor-specific air quality monitoring and the different types which are carried out under the working group on effects. It then goes into the details in observing chemistry in soil and water, and in biota. So here you have this on biota. And then it goes into some slides on how to identify pollutant thresholds. So here we have the concept of critical loads and critical levels. And then it also gives an overview on how to derive pollutant thresholds, so the different methods of how to do that. This is just one. For example, it shows critical loads maps and also area-wide assessments of the impacts of air pollution on ecosystems and materials. And then it explains dynamic modeling. And the last module then explains how monitoring air pollution effects can also be used in policy making. So this is how area-wide indicators can show areas at risks, how critical loads can be used in local decision support, and how this information then feeds into integrated assessment modeling, which is used as a modeling tool to help determine if current efforts are improving air quality, providing predictions of future air pollution impacts under different scenarios, helping to optimize efforts and identify regions needing further emission reductions to reach specified surface water, air, and forest soil quality. The course then closes with some slides to recap key takeaways for each module, and learners are then asked to take a final assessment to earn a certificate of completion, and this is how it looks like. So this is just a short overview of how this course looked like and what you can learn in this course. And we of course hope that you will enjoy it and that you will take the course and also promote it further through your networks. And here are all the links again to all the e-learning courses that we've developed so far under the convention. And with that, I close and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, and congratulations. This is really such a great and useful resource. It's obviously already been listed on EQMX and really a great addition to the online library. Now I'd like to give the floor to our next speaker, Caroline Schersing from the World Health Organization. So Caroline is an air quality, energy and health consultant, and she will present the new science and policy summaries that have been published recently by WHO, as well as WHO tools that can complement those summaries and support users in taking action for air quality and for health. So Caroline, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Juliet. I'm excited today. Thank you for inviting us to share our science and policy summaries and other tools. So before we get into what the science and policy summaries are, let's talk about why we created these. So Maya mentioned earlier that we had our second global conference on air pollution and health in Cartagena. And at that conference, we had over 50 commitments for clean air for health. And a few months after that, we then had our World Health Assembly. And at the 78th World Health Assembly, we had an overwhelming majority of countries adopting a global target to reduce the health impact, that is mortalities from air pollution, by 50% by 2040. Now, ideally, these summaries are meant to bridge the gap between countries recognizing that air pollution is a significant issue that's harming their population, and then trying to help them identify strategies and actions to actually work towards that global target of halving the health impacts of air pollution. Now that we understand why we're creating these science and policy summaries, let's talk about what exactly they are. So these are a series of briefs that combine scientific and policy information in plain language. And it's important to highlight that the reason we want this to be in plain language is that it's accessible not just to member states, but also to civil societies, international government organizations, as well as academia. And within each of these science and policy summaries, we want information that can inform strategies to protect health by providing, firstly, an overview of the current science for air quality and health. We also provide case studies that can either highlight successes and challenges so that countries can learn from other countries' actions. And lastly, we provide evidence-based policy recommendations. So what exactly do these policies, these science and policy summaries contain? So each document, we try to make them consistent in that you're going to see three main sections. The first section, which is the key messages, is going to highlight the importance of this issue, priority actions to improve your health, and then key definitions so that we can all be on the same page when we're reading this document. The main body of these summaries is going to be the overview of the topic and how it's connected and how it impacts your health. So for example, if we're talking about current exposures in health, it may try to answer questions such as how many people may die from transportation-related air pollution. We also then talk about barriers, drivers, and enablers of progress. So what are some of the barriers or drivers for stopping waste burning? And also looking to how these topics are interlinked with other topics. So how are dust storms and heat stress interlinked with air pollution and climate change? Once, when available, we try to also include case studies and success stories. So the last section is the way forward. And here we try to have policy action or recommendations that can apply to countries, so at the national level. We try to also offer future recommendations or future research for academics, and then also emphasizing the role that the medical community plays in multi-sectoral engagement for protecting public health. We need to have all sectors at the table if we truly want to protect health. Okay, so let's take a jump into some of these topics that are covered in these summaries. So overall, we have 30 different topics that are being covered, and each of them fall into one of these three categories. So for example, the first, exposure and health impacts of air pollution. An example of this could be the economic cost of the health effects, or the health effects itself of air pollution. And the second category we focused on was climate change linkages. And here you can see examples such as how this understanding the health impacts of sand and dust storms, or the impact of wildfire smoke on your health. And the last section is the sectoral solutions for air pollution and health. And we've covered multiple sectoral solutions. I'm listing a few here, such as transport, agriculture, land use planning. But the last section, and we have a special sort of group called the regional summaries. And this really is meant to give the regional perspective, which has unique challenges of air pollution and some of these solutions that they found work really well within that region. It's important to keep in mind that each SPS does not just provide background knowledge about the topic, but it can be complemented with one of the many tools and databases that WHO has developed. And here you can see just a couple of them that touch on topics such as green spaces, active mobility, transport, and household energy. Okay, so let's take a look at how a user could combine a science and policy summary with a toolkit. So for example, in the Exposure SPS, it highlights the importance of air quality legislation and transboundary cooperation for protecting the public from air pollution. So for countries interested in seeing what air quality standards exist in neighboring countries, they can visit our air quality standards database. The summary also touches on the critical need for monitoring, and that data is really the main input that we use for AirQ+, which is a tool that allows countries to assess what is the local health impact from local air pollution levels. If we look at another example of a sectoral solution, for example, green spaces. In this summary, we highlight the importance of assessing the suitability of actions in the local context. So you want to have an idea of a variety of different land use planning solutions, you could go to our repository on the Integrating Health in Urban and Territorial Planning. And these can be helpful in identifying potential land use plans that allow you to maximize what your green space access could be. And then if you want to actually now go a step further and see how does having access and the availability of green spaces, how does that impact your health, you can use the Green Urban Spaces and Health tool. So one last example, just for you to see how these summaries complement these tools. In the health and air quality co-benefits of climate change mitigation, in this summary, we've presented a lot of diverse and different types of solutions that are both beneficial for climate change mitigation as well as for air pollution. And if you want to evaluate what would be the benefit of reducing carbon reductions at certain solutions, you can use our climate change mitigation, air quality and health tool. Or if you want to look at a specific sector, you could, for example, you want to zone into the urban transportation and see what are the health and economic benefits of those carbon reduction measures. You can then go to our integrated sustainable transport and health assessment tool. So all of the SPS that I've just discussed are online, as well as 10 additional SPS. And if you want, you can scan the QR code, you can go there and download it immediately. But those are just some of them. We still have a lot more. We have over 30 of these in the pipeline, different stages. So keep checking the website. There are going to be more, for example, talking about indoor air pollution, land use planning in industries, and of course our regional perspectives that are going to be released in the coming months. And most importantly, we need to thank the contributors. We had over 270 people that contributed to the development of this product from over 55 countries. These summaries would not be possible without our amazing individuals and institutions from WHO's Technical Advisory Group, our Scientific Advisory Group, collaborating centers, civil societies, and UN partners. And of course, we have to thank our funding agencies such as Norway, Spain, Netherlands, and the Clean Air Fund. So before I hand back over to Julia, I just want to share some of our upcoming reports and publications that may be of interest. So we recently launched the SDG Tracking Progress Report, but as well as our Science and Policy Summary, which I just presented to you. In the coming months, we're going to be launching a joint report with UNICEF on children, air pollution, and health. And of course, keep your eye out for initiatives such as Beat the Heat and Non-Communicable Diseases and Climate Week. So thank you very much to my colleagues who this project could not, it takes an army to put this out there. And on behalf of all of my colleagues, thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for this presentation. Really great resources to support clean air action, especially because we know how complex air pollution and health impacts can be. So having this type of accessible and user-friendly tools and resources, this is really key. So thank you again for sharing, and we'll share in the chat the link to the science and policy summaries. So now we'll move on to our next speaker. Lorenzo Labrador is a scientific officer at the WMO, at the Global Atmospheric Watch Program. So Lorenzo, the WMO Air Quality and Climate Bulletin highlights year after year how interlinked climate change and air pollution are, and how they must be addressed together to protect human health, ecosystems, and economies. So could you tell us a bit more about the key learnings from this year's edition of the Climate and Air Quality Bulletin? Lorenzo, are you with us? Okay, so Lorenzo may have some technical issues, so we'll move on. And I will introduce our next speaker, So Renee Gift, who is a legal officer at the UNEP Law Division. So Renee will present us today the UNEP Law and Air Quality Toolkit, which was developed in 2025 and is really a global database of national air quality legislation. So Renee, the floor is yours to present the Law and Air Quality Toolkit.
Thank you so much, Juliette. So my name is Renee Gift. I'm a legal officer at the UNEP Law Division, and I'll be presenting on one of the new tools that we've recently launched, the Law and Equality Toolkit. So just to take a step back to explain, most of you know UNEP's work on air pollution, but may not specifically know about what we're doing on air quality governance and legislation. So in the Law Division, I work within, we work to implement what is known as the Montevideo Environmental Law Program, which is an intergovernmental program designed to support countries implement and strengthen environmental rule of law. The Montevideo Environmental Law Program is made up of a network of Montevideo focal points who are usually designated by the countries, usually from ministries of the environment, and they set the strategy and the priority areas for implementation under the program. One of the first priority areas identified under the program was air pollution. And so we work in this area to support countries in developing strong laws on air quality. So another question to set the context is why air quality legislation? Why the focus on legislation as a means for air quality management? And in this case, legislation, we use legislation to refer to all laws and regulations made under legislative authority. Law was one of the key responses to identified as a key response to addressing the air pollution crisis by the Actions and Air Quality Report of UNEP in 2021. Legislative processes are also very useful for managing ambient air quality because it allows for review and updating of standards and also balancing socioeconomic priorities. There's also that element of enforceability that a legally binding provision can enable, which perhaps a policy may not. So this is one of the key characteristics of benefits of having legislation to manage air quality. Domestic legislation is also a key institutional tool as recognized by the WHO air quality guidelines for implementing those guidelines at the national level. And finally, the right to breathe clean air was recognized as a vital component of the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment by the Special Rapporteur on the Human Right to a Clean, Healthy, and Sustainable Environment. And key steps to implementing this right include the establishment of effective legislation. So we developed the Air Quality Toolkit based on data and information compiled in 2021 when we were undertaking the first global assessment of air pollution legislation. This looked at legislation in 194 countries and the European Union. It was the first study of its kind to see how countries manage air quality as part of their national legislation. And it came up with several findings that were key to how we chose to develop the toolkit. And many of the findings included how countries are or are not managing air quality within national legislation, so within a legally binding document. And it came up with some key criteria for what constitutes effective governance in national air quality legislation. I'll come back to some of those things in a bit, but they included requirements within legislation to establish air quality standards, requirements to determine institutional responsibility, to monitor compliance, and to define consequences and so on for non-compliance, as well as provisions to ensure transparency and to ensure that air quality governance is participatory. So using some of these criteria, we developed the Law and Air Quality Toolkit. So the toolkit is available on the Montevideo Environmental Law Program platform known as the Law and Environment Assistance Platform. We have a number of other toolkits there, but if you navigate to the LEAP website and you go to toolkits, you'll find it there. And we're still populating some of the areas of the toolkit with other features, but the main feature, which is up and running at the moment, is the Legislation Explorer. So the toolkit is a database of national ambient air quality legislation, which users can browse according to key governance themes. So I'll go into that in a little moment. This is what it looks like when you click on the Legislative Explorer. So you have on the right-hand side a list of laws. So these are the laws that deal with ambient air quality legislation from different countries. And on the left, a series of different instruments that you can use to filter that legislation. I mentioned earlier that the Global Assessment of Air Pollution Legislation identified some criteria for effective governance. And we pulled out some of these criteria and listed them here. I'll scroll down in a second so you can see better. But for example, it looked at whether ambient air quality standards are in a legislative document or a non-binding instrument, and who has responsibility for implementing air quality standards. So this is a little bit what it looks like when you scroll down. On the left, you can see, for example, you can filter the legislation by which legislation contains indoor air quality standards, whether the instrument is primary legislation, whether it's a policy. Most of the documents that are populated here are legislation, and that has been the recommendation of our knowledge products to embed ambient air quality standards in legislation. And there are also other filters on the left, or criteria, I should say, which includes whether legislation contains certain exceedances or allows for certain exceedances or not, and how compliance with the WHO air quality guidelines have been embedded within the law. So at the moment, the legislation is tagged according to the entire legislation. For example, if you were to select one of these tags on procedural and substantive rights, for example, or any of these air quality guideline standards, you would, on the right-hand side, see a list of legislation that where some of these provisions are integrated. So just to go to the bottom there, it also looks at provisions within legislation for transboundary air pollution. So, right. One of the features that we're currently working on at the moment and should be up and running soon is the development of a map, because we do want to show in a visual manner how some of these features in legislation is showing up on a world map. So many countries or regions ask, for example, well, how is our region doing in terms of integrating PM 2.5 in national legislation? And the map that we develop is going to allow users to see that. At the moment, it will come up as, if you click on it, then the laws that feature a provision on PM 2.5 will come up. I wanted to share a little bit about some of the features that we're currently integrating. So they don't appear at the moment on the website, but I'm drawing from the work that we have done on the climate change toolkit, which is very similar, where we have very similar filters on the left, for example. And one thing that we're implementing now, so for example, if you click on financing in the climate change toolkit, what will come up is the list of laws, as I mentioned, but these are tagged to the provision level. So it will jump right, if you click on that law, it will jump right to that provision or that feature that which reflects how a governance characteristic has been integrated into that law. I know that could be helpful for I mean, it's helpful for me sometimes when I'm doing my research on how certain governance themes are integrated into the law, and it should be useful, especially to users. I mean, this is really targeted at lawmakers and researchers, but this allows you to jump right to that provision in the law without necessarily having to read through the entire legal document. So we're in the process of integrating this feature into our laws at the moment. So if you were to click on any one of those filters that I showed you on the left, to do with procedural rights, or to do with any of the guidelines, you should be able to go right to the provision of that law and to see how that's reflected in the law. And there are other interesting features as well. We convert our laws into machine readable format. Many of the databases that you will find on legislation right now will lead you to a PDF, which in that case is a bit sometimes hard to navigate. So we have embedded a few features. For example, if you were to scroll down and read through the law and see that ambient air or a different provision is referred to, it will have a kind of pop-up which shows you how this has been defined within the law. So you don't always need to jump yourself to a different section. So there'll be a number of features. I mean, this is already live, but there'll be a number of features that will be coming on stream very shortly to improve readability, but also how users can find specific themes in legislation and compare those across different types of legislation. Another feature that will be coming online, for example, is being able to look at a specific law, find information about it. So you will be able to see maybe whether the law has different versions, whether it's been updated. All of that will be featured. And then you can actually make comparisons where you can see the law side by side. This might be interesting, for example, if you want to see if the law has been improved over time or what amendments have been made as compared to older versions. So, and this can be displayed in different ways. This is just another feature that is coming online soon. Now, a lot of what we have, the recommendations of the original global assessment have been integrated and used to develop a guide on ambient air quality legislation. Ideally, this is something that should be read alongside the toolkit in terms of this is a guide on how countries can develop ambient air quality law. We're also building on this to integrate a kind of e-learning module within the toolkit. So this is a sort of the phase 2, and this should be coming online hopefully by the end of this year. But for now, the guide is available online as well to lawmakers. Some places that we're really considering how to expand the toolkit is ensuring that more and more pieces of legislation are integrated into the toolkit and made into machine readable format. This will ensure or allow users to search them by the governance theme. Like I mentioned, we'll be also implementing a visual map soon, developing e-learning support, drawing from the guide that I mentioned. We'll also be implementing some features to allow data sharing between platforms. So you heard about AQMX and the provision. There are also provisions within AQMX on legislation that feature, for example, compilations of legislation, and we can easily make that information available. What we do on the toolkit is we've invested into continuous monitoring to keep the legislation up to date. So when we transfer that data, it will always be sort of the latest legislation that's available in a country at the moment. Just also wanted to mention that under the Montevideo Environmental Law Program, UNEP offers technical legal support to countries to develop legislation on any environmental law issue, but that includes also air quality law. This is the URL to get there on the QR code, but I would really encourage any countries that would like support to review or develop environmental laws or specifically air quality law to reach out to us. Thanks so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Renee, and really congratulations on this huge effort. I'm sure it will be such a useful tool to air quality managers, policymakers worldwide. We'd be more than happy, of course, to have stronger connections with EQRMax to make those tools even more integrated and more user-friendly. And as usual, we'll be linking the Law and Air Quality Toolkit in the chat. So thank you again, Renee. And now I want to introduce one of our last speakers, Jinyi Ye, who is a colleague at the CCAC Secretariat, working as the Science Affairs Consultant. So unfortunately, Jinyi couldn't be with us today, but she shared a video that I will share now on the updated pollution action note.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Jingyi, and I'm a science consultant from Climate and Clean Air Coalition. It is my pleasure here today to present our pollution action note. Let me share my screen. Yes, I hope you could see my screen clearly. UNEP Pollution Action Note is an interactive web tool that shows the outdoor air pollution data from all different aspects. It displays the global state of air pollution. It shows the major source of air pollution, what is the impact on human health, especially the deadly illness linked to PM2.5, and international and regional efforts to tackle these critical issues. Last but not least, this web tool can also create a downloadable PDF data of each country profile in the globe. So now let's walk us through the pollution action note. The first infographic we have here is the current state of population exposed to air pollution. As you can see here, each square is a country sized by its annual means of PM2.5. The larger the square is, it means the higher level of population in the country exposed to air pollution. You could also see there are some different colors from light pink to purple. It represents multiple times that this country exists to WHO air quality guideline. As we know what the current state is, but when we are talking about air pollution, we really needed to know what is the source. So the second section and also the second infographics we have for the pollution action note is a newly created infographics. It shows the air pollution emission sources, but not only that, it shows the proportion of these particular emission sources that contributed to the global PM2.5 emissions on average. For example, we could see that wind-blown dust accounted for 16.1%, solvent accounted for 0.2%, but agricultural waste burning accounted for 0.7% of global PM2.5 emissions on average. And then in the next infographics, it jumped into a little bit more details into the contribution of each sector to PM2.5 in different regions. As you can see here, there are some big squares and small squares, and these squares represented regions of the world. The size of the squares represented its total exposure to air pollutions comparing to different regions, but as you can see over here, the smaller colored squares in each big square is represented the contributed sectors. In this case, for example, in Africa, the largest contribution sector is wind blow dust. And in Asian Pacific, the largest one is residential. So why do we need this data? We know that human activities has contributed to the most to the emissions of air pollutant. When we understand the breakdown of the PM2.5 sources, it can help the policymakers, help the scientists, and also the communities to take targeted actions to reduce pollution and its impact on health, climate, and ecosystem. Talking about health, talking about the impact of air pollution, let's jump into the session 3 of the Pollution Action Note, the impact of air pollution. Over 4 million people have died in 2021 from exposure to 5 particular outdoor air pollution. And you could see on these infographics here, not only you could check the total number of deaths caused by outdoor air pollution, but also the number of premature deaths caused by PM2.5 per 100,000 people. Well, following up of these infographics, it's the infographics that we presented what are the diseases that can be attributed to outdoor air pollutions, which included obesities, included stroke, lung disease, heart disease, etc., and also cancer as well. Well, you may know or may not know that a higher level air pollution could even cause morbidity in newborn babies. Well, if you wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the impact of air pollution, you could use the interactive feature of this figure. As you can see here, you could choose the disease you wanted to check, and for example, in this case, we can see that the disease itself is stroke, and we could also see that there are 27% of death that's caused by stroke were attributed to 5 particular outdoor air pollution in 2021. And the below figure over here, you could also check on the country percentage of this particular disease and the particular deaths. Well, exposure to 5 particular outdoor pollution is actually the second largest risk factor to premature deaths globally, as you can see over here. And it is the single largest environmental risks that for premature deaths globally. With all this information, you may wonder what other globe is doing. So in the next section, it is about international and regional actions. So nowadays, there are 95% of the world population living in a country that is party to at least one international agreement that is specifically target on air pollution. Well, this infographics here is also one that we newly updated on the designs, which can show more clearly on how many international and regional agreements that one country is party in. So from 3 agreements or 3 or more into even 1 agreement, we could see over here that countries worldwide have really come together to really stop the dangerous effect of the transboundary air pollution. While the next infographics here, let us dive deeper into each of the international and or regional agreements. You could find a little bit of short explanations of the agreement, and also who are the participants and who are the observers, as well as a very useful links for you to have a more deeper understanding or to links to the agreements. So worth mentioning over here is that we have included a newly established newly established West Asia Air Quality Network. So this network was established in 2024 to support governments and stakeholders in West Asia to tackle air pollution. Worth mentioning over here is that this network right now is open to all West Asia countries. So all of the above infographics, as you may notice, that they included country-specific information. Well, so in the final section of our air pollution action note over here, we have provided the capacity that the audiences could generate a country profile on the air pollution impact and the actions of this country. Notably, we have also included the contribution of each sector to air pollution in this country. So in this case, we have Afghanistan. So we can see over here the largest contributing sector in Afghanistan is wind-blown dust, but residential also accounted for 7.5%, and agriculture accounted for 5.2% of air pollution in Afghanistan. And this really comes to the end of the pollution action note. And if you wish to explore the source of our data here, you could find our reference links, and you're welcome to explore and play around with this web tool. So we really hope that this pollution action note could provide the audience a more comprehensive picture of outdoor air pollution, from where we stand, what are the sources, and where is the impact, and to what are the actions. Air pollution can travel long distance across the border and impact the neighboring of their origins. It does not just jeopardize our health and our well-beings, but it also contributes massively to climate change, to threaten the food security, to ecosystems, and making our city inhabitably unsafe. We know that more actions are needed. Just like the key message of this year's Clean Air Day, we shall all join the race for a solution to clean air. We should all racing for clean air. Well, thank you very much for your time today, and I wish you have a pleasant day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, and congratulations again on this updated pollution action note. There's really a wealth of data, of useful information on air pollution around the world, and I encourage all participants to have a look at this great tool. And now, to close this webinar, it's my pleasure to give the floor to Amanda Curry-Brown from the CCAC Secretariat. So Amanda coordinates our Clean Air flagship and will tell us more about what the flagship has achieved to date and what comes next. So Amanda, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you very much, Juliet. And thank you to everybody with us today for joining. And let me be the, I think, last one to wish you a happy Clean Air Day on behalf of CCAC. The impacts of air pollution and the challenges in addressing it are well known, so it's been really great to see so much positive work towards practical and accessible solutions. CCAC's Clean Air flagship was launched in 2024 to elevate action on air pollution within the coalition, and has been organized around 5 key focus areas: international cooperation and capacity building, science, advocacy, coordination with the private sector, and finance. The first 18 months or so have been very busy, and many of you will remember that it's been a year ago that we first launched AQMX and the Stage 1 guidance, and you've seen the new guidance launched today. We've kickstarted the Africa Clean Air Program through work with our champion countries, launched practical guide for emission inventories for business with SEI and IKEA, organized events at key moments such as the WHO Conference on Air Pollution and Health and London Climate Week to raise awareness and promote action, and supported our partners in their clean air ambitions, including working with South Africa in their G20 presidency and elevating clean air as a standalone priority under the G20. In the year or so ahead, we are going to continue to advance work on AQMX. As Juliet mentioned earlier, we're planning to launch sectoral guidance and work with regional focal points to have regional knowledge hubs. We've got events planned at COP, UNEA, and the Better Air Quality Conference 2026. We're planning to launch an economic assessment to better understand the costs and benefits of action on clean air, as well as continuing to further work to advance the priority of finance under the flagship. We'll also keep working with our partners on their initiatives to accelerate action on a regional basis, and looking towards what comes after the end of the initial remit of the flagship in 2026. So I just want to say thank you again for joining us, and please, I think, feel free to get in touch with Juliette or myself if you'd like to learn more about the work we're doing or how you might join in.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I also really want to thank all of our speakers for joining us today. We've shared all the links to the resources and tools that we've presented today to participants. As Amanda mentioned, please feel free to get in touch with us if you have any follow-up question or suggestion on the AQMX platform. We'd love to hear them. And so now let me close this webinar, wishing you all a very happy International Day of Clean Air. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.